Okay, Dan, let's start with your why.
What's funny about my journey into the work I do is I didn't want to do it. I'm not one of those people that I answered the call and I wanted to be of service. I got burnt helping people very early on. I didn't want
Right.
anything to freaking do with it. I had my nice little bubble. I had my house in Highgate. For those of you who know London, it's a lovely part of London. My house in Highgate. I had my tailor Adam, who made me my nice jackets, and I got to wear them to fancy bars, sipping champagne because I love my life. And I'd go and hang out in Dubai. I'd hang out in New York with my buddies. I'd fly first class. And I did it working a few hours here and there because of the way that I'd structured my consulting business. There was this call that kept coming through and people that kept synchronistically coming through. And it's like, this is getting a bit ridiculous until I answered the call and I had this very mystical experience that I'm not going to go into now, but I had a very clear call that yes, I loved my life, but there was something more available. And so I dove into that and this is where I am today. Yeah. So it's not like, oh, like I'm going to make loads of money doing this or I'm going to help make. I wanted to evolve consciousness. I had this beautiful experience around consciousness and that's what I wanted to do. And so I'm doing these workshops, I'm setting these workshops and I'm begging people, come to my workshop. I'm paying for venues, I'm flying to places, I'm putting myself up. But it's when I started to make the connection between mastery as an idea and a tangible way to track mastery that served people's self-interest that the light bulb went off. And that's when I started my Micro to Millions program, where we actually went through the process of creating money, which we can track and see, taste and touch and feel as a guiding for how capable we are of actually making a choice of what we're going to create and experiencing it. If I say I'm going to teach you to make $1,000 from nothing and it shows up, my stuff works. If it doesn't show up, it hasn't worked. But when we can take that then and apply it to our health, to our relationships, to our experience in life, that's where the yumminess is. But still what was happening is that people's journey into even that was getting hampered by the job being in the way, by time needs and so on and so forth. And so someone came in to Micro to Millions. She's like, oh, I really love this work. I wish I could do this all day, but I hate my job. My son's got a daughter that he needs some help with. I need to get there. And so I've been entrepreneurial all my life. I've got a business that does raises business funding. I've got a business that was doing credit perfection. I had some other interests. And I said, you know what? I think I've got a solution for you. And so I put together some of these pieces. And within 60 days, she was financially free. She'd left Colorado. She'd moved to Tennessee. She's now able all day to do philanthropy work or play with her granddaughter. She's living her best life as I want people to do. And now she's making even more. She wants like 20 grand a month of passive income 3 years down the road. After that, it became clear that that combination of things was going to be a service for other people. And so elements of it at least started to come into the mix. I initially had it just for my mastermind members, but then it became clear that some people don't necessarily want to do the coaching process. They just want to have the freedom to do, maybe not to work with me, maybe to work with someone else, or maybe to do their own inner work. And so we spun it off and it became Financial Freedom in a Box, where in short, we set up a conglomerate of income streams for you. We manage them, you get paid, you have nothing to do, but just get paid. And that gives you the freedom to maybe work with us, maybe work with yourself, maybe work with others, but certainly to have the freedom to do what you want with your time and energy and not have to exchange it to live life on your own terms.
What happens to this investment in the current economy?
Inflation is happening because we've been printing money at a rate that has not been seen before. But if you look at the cycles, that happens time and time again. This is nothing new, but we're in a perfect storm right now for quite a messy collapse. And so I am all the more passionate about sharing the gift I have of experience and pain so that people can actually benefit from that, cut the learning curve and have sufficient agency to operate, because not everybody was wiped out in 2008. Some people did better than others. Not everybody was wiped out in 1929. Some people did better than others. And there is an opportunity for us to be not only survivors in that which is to come, but at the vanguard of those who are thriving and advancing, not at the expense of others, but because we consciously made the choice to be in alignment with the flow of things rather than fighting against it. And abundance is there. So many of us have been walking through life assuming that we had a certain level of certainty, we had a certain level of stability, we had a certain level of control. And then something comes up and reminds us that we don't. And now, oh my God, I'm uncertain. Oh my God, there's fear. No, you're seeing the truth of your situation. Right. You were thinking that this job was going to be the thing that was going to keep you ticked over. You had all your wealth tied up in one place, blah, 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 blah. So all the people that have been looking, oh, my fund manager has got me in stocks. The stock market is being artificially propped up by 4 or 5 companies. And one of those companies, Facebook, has already started to crack.
Yeah.
one of them has already started to crack. Okay. So when the bubble bursts, as it always does, it's cyclical. All of those people that have got their head in the ground with, I've got money with my fund manager, they're going to see their pension run out, disappear. They're going to see their savings disappear. They're going to see their net worth disappear because they were tied in to the system that is breaking down. It's not that it's going to break down. Just look at the S&P 500 and look at the past year or two, who's red and who's black. And you're going to see that 80 something % of companies, they're bleeding out. And then when you look at the fact that, the way that the quote unquote pandemic has been handled has led to disruption of the free flow of capital and resources between people, places, and things.
Yeah.
And then the rate of printing on top of that. And then you've got war on top of that. And then you've got, it's the perfect storm. Now, where there is challenge, there is opportunity. But we have to know how to take hold of that opportunity. And if we're just sitting around waiting for our president, your government, or whoever to be the one to save you. I mean, I saw the biggest joke the other day. He said, a country that's 30 trillion in debt is deciding whether you're credit worthy or not. Oh, yeah. So this is the triangle to abundance. And it's in my work, I work with people at all different levels, and we've got wealth and beyond wealth above this. But we support people moving through this to wherever they want to be. And some people are happy at freedom. I've had people that have come in to work with me. They said they wanted to be a millionaire. They get into it and realize, hang on a minute, I'm actually chill now. I don't need to do anything else. And I've had people come in that want to go to ridiculous levels. Shawnee, who's in our program, she's in our 7-figure club, as in she's made $1 million in the program. She wants to be a billionaire, right? And so we're going to be supporting her in doing that and curating the support for her to get there. But you're not going to be able to operate at a level beyond your emotional capacity to handle life's day-to-day stuff. And so if you're in scarcity, which we define as not having the resources to meet your needs, whether that's you've got the money, but you don't have the time, energy, or mental and emotional well-being, because there are people who are making $1 million, but they're living in scarcity because they're burnt out and they're a mess. Stability is when you're able to meet those needs, but it requires your time and energy. So you have to be in the business. You have to be at the job. You have to do the thing. Freedom is your needs being met without the need to actually extend time and energy. So that could mean that your business is automated. It could mean that you've got investments. It could mean that you're just about that life and the money's just there for you. And then abundance is that your needs are being met and more. You've got a surplus over and above that. So that could be that you've got money to be of contribution. It could mean that you've got money to start building wealth, which is where the next thing comes over here. That's the next triangle. But we help people navigate those. But the thing is that with this, this gift that we're able to give people of financial freedom in a box, it's getting them here on autopilot. So we've got 2 levels of financial freedom. Freedom level 1 are your basic needs. Freedom level 2 are your excited, sexy needs. So freedom level 1 is, okay, I've got a roof over my head. I've got food in my belly, food in the fridge. Like the kids aren't, in trouble, whatever. The bills are paid. I can vibe. And then the next level beyond that is, okay, I'm vibing now, but I want a second home. I'm vibing now. I want to upgrade the car. I'm vibing now. I want to get, more holiday time or whatever, but still not needing the time and energy to be exchanged for it. And then we start to move into abundance, whereby I'm doing everything that I want to do, and yet there's still more overflow. And these numbers are going to be different for everybody, right? I remember Andrea, she thought that her financial freedom figure was $100,000 a month. She thought she needed $1.2 million a year to live her best life. When I had her sit down and crunch the numbers, it worked out $3,500 is all she needed every month to live her best life. And so she was holding herself back from experiencing freedom. Maybe she came to a conversation like this and she's like, well, how am I going to make X amount? But actually, when you know the numbers, it really, really changes the kind of conversation that you need to be having, because it becomes very, very possible for you to imagine having a few $1,000s a month that allows you to replace your job, replace slaving away in the business, so that you can actually go and create more, whether it's contribution, whether it's beauty, whether it's, I don't know, whether you want to play Lego. I've got Lego here in my office. If I wanted to, I could cancel everything today and play Lego, and my income, my ability to live life on my terms would not end.
So let's play with what financial freedom actually looks like.
So first of all, we commit to $60,000 a year US is what we contractually commit to. So but nobody that's been in for like a year of active movement, like a year of active earning, is doing less than 100. So let's say, for example, and again, the start times differ depending on where you are in the world. Erin here is in financial freedom in the box, so she can account for someone that's foreign. Because one of the things that makes this all work is that we leverage the US banking system and their obsession with trying to create debt slaves. So we take their commitment to create debt slaves and we say, oh, yes, master, screw you, I'm going to go get free, right? Because they throw credit at you. They throw credit at you in the US because they want you to be beholden. Because if you're making the minimum payments on a credit card forever, they're just eating off you for life. It's really sad to see. And so we just flipped the script on them and said, oh, yeah, cool. Yeah, we'll make the minimum payments, but we're going to take your 0% card and go and make 50% a year annual return on that card, right? We're going to go and flip it and create massive capital gains and then give you your minimum payments. Oh, yes, yeah, I'm a slave. No, I'm not. I'm leveraging. And this is the difference between consumer debt and other people's money, which I think a lot of people get stuck on. Because when I start talking about debt, we had a conversation with a couple the other day who really want the husband's game for it. The wife's like, she doesn't really quite get, she's like, we spent 10 years getting ourselves out of our financial hole. I don't want to take on debt. So we're not taking on debt. You're taking on a business partner in the form of the banks, and you're giving them a fixed rate of return, which sometimes is 0% for a period of time. And then you go and do your thing. Would you take an investor? If you had a winning idea, would you allow an investor to come in? Yeah. Would you give them a cut of the profits? Yeah. Well, why not just do that with the banks? Except you don't have to do a business plan. You just need to do a credit application. And you don't even need to do that. We've got specialists that will do that for you. And that's literally the mindset shift that we want to invite people to step into. So now I've covered those basics. Essentially what we do is we set up a company whose sole purpose is to take on that debt. All right. Regardless of where you are in the world, that's the first thing that we're going to be doing. We then have proprietary methods to getting the maximum amount of debt through that company. And that will change depending on where you are in the world, where you're from in the world. And I'll go to those details in a minute. And then we've got a portfolio of different income streams that we put whatever debt we get into, ensuring that the minimum return on any debt that we take on nets you 60,000 a year. And then as often as we can, we go back to the trough and try and get more money. I just got another 110,000 for myself approved this morning. And so, yeah, I'm going to give them, I think 12% or something like that. I'm going to be giving them for the money that I got approved for today. But I'm probably going to 3 to 4x that money over the time that I'm making payments to them. Right. And that's literally what we do. So it's making money out of nothing. We're money printing, essentially. We take care of servicing the debt. You don't have to think about that. We take care of making sure it gets paid down when it needs to get paid down. You just get paid on a regular basis and sit back and do what you want to do with your life. You put your hard-earned money in the bank, depending on the country, that bank can spin around and immediately lend out that money 10 times the capital that they've got. So you go and put $1 in the bank, they'll give you 1% if you lock it up for a year. They'll go and put that out on a credit card and charge someone 16%.
You mentioned that it grows every year, and I'd love to know how that works.
We're going to keep going back to the trough as often as possible, maximizing what we can get and then maximizing the returns on that. So that 60 to 100 is year one, but anyone who's been in for more than 2 years is actually at multiple six figures. They're over the 150, 200K.
So what role do I play in business operations then?
If you're US based, we're probably going to use like one of the major banks for the account where you deposit things into. So we'll do as much of it as we can, but you may have to call and confirm a thing. We had one lady that had to go into a branch and just sort of two. They had to go into the branch and just like get their account opened and verified or what have you. If we end up using a large number of credit cards, you might have to do the activation thing, whatever. But we aim to make it as painless as possible so that you have as little to do. So you're not involved in the active things, but there may be some minor administrative tasks that you're going to be involved in, but that's it. And we're talking about that 60 grand. That's after we've made sure that your accounting is paid for, any administrative people that need to be paid, your entire team that manages your portfolio. We commit to having a minimum of 60K US at the end of the day after all that's said and done. But yeah, for people that are based, other parts of the world, we're looking at a good few months before things get started. So there isn't necessarily a need to put everything on the table now. We can break it up, but we do incentivize people doing it immediately by giving you a little bit of some credit in terms of the investment, and also we get an income stream started for you. We are going to be stopping that, I think, in April, only because I'm going to need to go and hire some more people. so we're kind of at capacity on that income stream. We're at capacity on that income stream now. We hired another person, and Paolo's like, Mr. Daniel. I was like, okay. So we'll be doing that. But for the moment, if someone does come in all in, then they'll start earning now. Even though the main income streams will start later, they'll earn like a couple grand a month, paid weekly. It takes a bit longer when you're foreign because we've got some dancing around to do, but you get a certain level of shielding. For the US, we can do the same thing. If someone's like a bit paranoid, we had one lady, she had the means to do the thing. Like she had a strong enough score for us to get her done now. She's like, do you know what? I'd rather wait and have that peace of mind. Okay. So she waited and had that. She's got that peace of mind. So it's whatever way that it needs to work for you. Because a big thing for me is that I want people to be in a conducive space to create. That's what I call it, being in a conducive space to create. If you're not in a conducive space to create, then you're not going to be mentally and emotionally resourced to even enjoy the thing anyway. So we lay things out so that you are in a good place so that you can enjoy the good things.
So if I'm Canadian and not American, can you lay out the process?
So Erin's obviously Canadian based, so she's got her first income stream, and that one that goes, it does between 2 and 3K a month, and then probably May/June we'll have a second one. They'll probably add another 5K US to that based on current tracks, how things are looking at the moment, and that will pay every few days because it's an e-commerce based strategy. And yeah, Erin will just get those pings. And then what will happen is in another 6 months, we'll try and go back to the trough again with the debt vehicle that we've got set up and see what we can do again. And we'll just keep coming back to the trough and coming back to the trough, coming back to the trough.
And if I'm American, how's that going to work for me?
If you've got a good credit score, you can be in with just a $10,000 outlay. And you could realistically be earning as quickly as beginning of June, you could be earning income. And as a US base, that could be upwards of 5K monthly. If you need to use credit to pay for this, we lend you the money to service the debt and take it out later. Or if you had the $10,000 available across credit cards, we would take that on credit card and we would give you the money for the minimum payments on that to be serviced so you don't have to think about it. We're letting the bank pay for your freedom from start to finish.
Okay, great. So what's the risk to me?
Everything goes completely to pants and then the credit gets written off or gets charged off. Everything does. In which case, our credit team will take it off your credit file. And so maybe you'd have a bank that you can't go to for a couple of years. Maybe. Aimed at everybody. Even if someone, so we've had people come to us with a 700-ish score. By the time we're finished, they've got an 800 because as part of the process for our US people, we perfect your credit and get it over 800.
It's not a question, though this sounds too good to be true.
But I just want to address this too good to be true thing because this comes up sometimes when I'm discussing this with people. I've got Asperger's, I'm on the autistic spectrum. And so I look at things in firm patterns, right? And so when I was mapping this out, I looked for where all the pitfalls were. And so I covered 99.99% of them by virtue of the way that my brain works. And so people look at this well-orchestrated thing and they say, oh, it's too good to be true. No, it's just well planned out. It's just well planned out. The components of this are just brought together in a way that makes sense. Component one, we get credit. Is it too good to be true to get business credit? No, people do it every day. Number two, we use that to go and do business. Do people do business with credit? Yes, they do it every day. Number three, we manage it for you. Do people have business managers? Yes, that happens every day. In the worst case scenario, if you have a bad debt situation, does your credit need to get repaired? Does that happen every day? Yes, that happens every day. There's no too good to be true element. It's just the way that it's packaged gives people that illusion. But when you actually dispassionately sit back and look at the whole picture, that's all that's happened. In relation to what I said before about it being about it being too good to be true that you don't need your own money. Well, I'm looking at the objections that people might have to doing this. You said you don't have 10,000. I said you probably got it across credit or available in credit. But those payments mean that you're chill. I've got another rock star person who's going to be financially free, which I get paid to create lead magnets to go out into the world to talk about how great I am because I've made them financially free.
What are the revenue streams you're going to be using?
We've got a dozen different income streams. We've got several in real estate based ones. We've got several around different e-commerce strategies. We've got one around food products. We're about to kick off for some clients this week. Um, we're literally always looking for the edge for where there's space for us to make a profit. And we've got established income streams from established industries that I personally, in some instances, have been in for more than 20 years. So the food products, that's how I made my first million when I was 19, getting letters of credit, buying containers of food for over here for 95 cents on the dollar, going and sending them over here for going and sending them over here for $1 on the dollar. And there's a spread that the bank paid for with a letter of credit.
Am I splitting or sharing my revenue streams with other people?
No, you have your individualized. Everyone has their own individualized.
And finally, is there anything else you'd like us to know?
Look for ways to make something work versus reasons why it won't work, and it will probably work. It's a couple of pieces that come together, and we do the coming together of those pieces for you anyway.